Okay, how's it going, everybody? I hope you're all doing well. Okay, well, so in today's episode, I thought I'd try to say something about niceness. As the title says, I have to say I think it's a little bit overrated, to say the least. So let me see if I can make my case. Okay, so many of us don't question it, but here's the thing: is it actually good to be nice? Is niceness a virtue? That's to say, is it a character trait that's admirable? At the end of the day, should we value niceness as much as we do? So think about it this way. What about somebody who's a bit coarse, say, and doesn't exchange the expected pleasantries, but who's honest and genuine? And by the way, when I say coarse, I don't mean rude. As Nietzsche said, rudeness is no good as it betrays a lack of self-discipline and perspective. Anyway, isn't there something admirable about this sort of person? This sort of person who's a bit coarse, but honest. And how would this sort of person compare to someone who wants to please others and be perceived by others as being nice, and so because of this doesn't really say what it is they believe? Don't they seem somewhat less virtuous? And actually, more generally, doesn't niceness in some way exclude or prevent the virtues of honesty and authenticity? And what's more, doesn't niceness often reduce to a kind of superficial interaction? And is this what we really want? Do we want smiley, predictable pleasantries without much substance? And more broadly, is it better to be concerned with the feelings of others, or with honesty and authenticity and with real acts of courage? Why should we always protect one another's feelings if this often means sacrificing those other virtues? Why should emotional comfort trump everything else? Anyway, so those were a lot of questions. So let me go back to the basic one. Is niceness a virtue? Now, certainly I think that many of us take it to be. Often it seems that we glorify niceness as if it's the greatest virtue that somebody could possibly uphold in society. And how do we conceive of it? Well, not surprisingly, many of us think of niceness as a noble and other regarding virtue. You know, where we're genuinely concerned with others before ourselves, that sort of thing. But is that really true? Is that what's really going on when we're behaving nicely? I'm not so sure. No, I think you could argue that niceness is often sort of just a disguised form of self-interest. That's to say, often it's more concerned with one's own comfort and security than it is with real engagement with another person. And often it wants ease and shallowness and contentment rather than genuine striving. In this way, you might say that niceness is a kind of a weak substitute for the real, more demanding virtues. That's to say, it's not a genuine expression of a concern for others, which would be hard actually, but rather it's a kind of shying away. That's to say, by being inoffensively neutral and bland, you avoid drawing attention to yourself, and at the same time you keep others at a distance from you. In this way, then, there's a kind of non-commitment and aloofness to niceness that you don't see in more demanding virtues. Actually, I think we can expand on this more generally. That's to say, I guess what I'm trying to say with all this is that niceness often masquerades as genuine charity and love, but what that is in many cases is a rationalization for other things, other fears and weaknesses. I mean, for example, niceness might be a way out of thinking and being accountable. That's to say, if nice means never ruffling feathers, then it excuses the nice person from thinking and saying things that they might be held accountable for. It keeps things comfortably superficial. But in this way, what niceness really does is it hides fear and laziness and self-examination. Unlike the fuller virtues like kindness and generosity, you might say that niceness conceals much more than it truly extends or offers. Actually, speaking of the fear of not thinking and of challenging others, this can be very dangerous. It's dangerous because, in this sense, what niceness often means is it means not caring about if anybody's right or wrong or whether they're unreasonable. It means cultivating a culture that's non-questioning, where we don't say things that might invite disapproval. Suffice it to say, it's hard to think how much progress can be made in this kind of case. Okay, well, actually, there's one more thing that I wanted to say. So, what about the issue of coming to know others, of coming to really know them, who they really are? What I mean is, how can you come to know someone if, in this requirement to maintain niceness, you both forego any uncomfortable but honest opinions? You both forego resistance. I mean, I can imagine two people being extremely nice to each other for years, but without the slightest clue as to who the other person really is and what they think. Now, this seems very odd to me, to go through the only life that we have and to keep it at the bland level of pleasantries. I mean, if that's what we want, why does the person that we're spending our time with need us in particular, when anyone could do to fill that space? After all, anyone can be nice. No, personally, I'd rather be disliked but known to others around me than loved but unknown. Sure, it might be uncomfortable at times, but it strikes me as much more authentic. A true meeting of souls just seems to require some disagreement and conflict, because how else could you recognize the other person for who they really are? There's this amazing little anecdote about Socrates that I think might be helpful here. So in this little story, Socrates is around this younger person, and he says to him, "Speak so that I can see you." Now, what does that mean? Well, it means that when we look at someone with our eyes, we don't really see who they are. No, it's only when we listen to what they say that we're getting a sense of their inner being. In other words, language, which is to say our opinions and our beliefs, well, that's what discloses our soul to others. We reveal who we truly are, not through bland tropes and by avoiding things that might invite disapproval, but when we try to forthrightly say what it is we really believe. Bye for now.